Let me end with this. It was a Christmas Eve, which on this year happened to be on Sunday. Up in the northeastern part of the United States, it had been cold and snowy most of the day. And as the man's wife did every Sunday evening, she asked him would he like to go to Sunday services. And as he did every Sunday, he declined the offer. He was a good man, he was a good husband, he was a good provider, but he was just not a religious man. This idea of God and God becoming man, it just seemed like the story of myths and fantasies to him. As she walked out the door, he went and put on his evening clothes, stoked the fire, turned on the TV and sat down ready to watch some sports. He had barely gotten comfortable when he heard a thud and then a second and a third outside of his big bay window. He first thought that maybe some kids were making snowballs and throwing them up against the window. He got up and went to investigate. He looked around. He did not see anything until he looked down in the snow and saw several birds huddled together. He surmised that they somehow had been caught out in the snow and saw his big bay window and being able to see the warmth. Thought that they could fly inside and maybe find a place of refuge until the weather abated. He took pity upon them. And he thought, what can I do to help these birds? And he looked out the window and he had a tool shed that was not more than about 20 feet away. He put on a coat and gloves and a hat. And he walked outside and he opened the shed door and stood back, assuming that the birds could see that they could find shelter inside, but they simply ignored it. He tried to herd them in, but once again, they just scattered. He thought, what can I do to help these birds? And he hit upon an idea. He went and got some bread and made a crumb line from the door of the shed as close as he could get to the birds, but they simply ignored it. And he thought to himself, and as the wind started to pick up and he put his hands in his pockets for warmth, he thought, what can I do for these birds? What could I do to save them? Because left like they are, they will freeze to death in this weather. And the thought occurred to him, if I could just become a bird, just for a little while, then I could talk to them and communicate with them, and I could lead them to safety. And as soon as he had this thought crystallize in his mind, across the wings of the wind, he heard the sound of church bells. And he had an epiphany. All of a sudden, he understood. He understood not only that it did happen, but he understood why. Why God became man. Just for a little while. So he could talk with him and communicate with him and provide that path to safety. As these thoughts gripped him, the man fell to his knees. For the first time since he could remember, with a tear rolling down his cheek, he prayed. He was born in a manger of an obscure village, of a second-rate country. And from there he traveled less than 200 miles his entire life. He never went to college, never owned a home, never had much money, never ran for a political office. He became an itinerant preacher. Public opinion turned against him. His best friends forsook him. One even betrayed him. He was unjustly condemned to death by the religious leaders of his day, hung on a bloody Roman cross between two common thieves on a hill that overlooked the city garbage dump. And when dead, he was laying in a borrowed grave. 2,000 years have come and gone since that time. Empires have risen and fallen. Great armies have marched. Powerful rulers have ruled. But no one has affected history as much as He. He is the central figure of the human race. Those that lived before Him had an inkling that He was coming. Those that have lived since, well, we date our calendars by that time. Who is He? Why, He is the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of God. His name is Jesus.